Faith in God, no matter what the specifics of the believer's religion of choice, is the belief that he is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnibenevolent, that he is always going to do whatever he feels is beneficial to those with faith and without faith in him, and that as a person of faith, despite that these ways might not seem immediately to be stacked in your favour, you should accept that he knows what's best and live in the knowledge that he is taking care of everything. God works in mysterious ways. Praying that he change these meticulously planned events in your life at the very moment your puny brain realizes you're about to get screwed on a business deal or cheated out of something for which you feel entitled to seems like an awful lack of faith that his ways are always perfect, despite that this is exactly what must be believed if it's also to be taken as read that he is omniscient. Prayer also seems to assume that God is absent-minded with regards to events in the believer's life which are important to them. The idea that he somehow might forget what you want in your life during that important job interview flat out contradicts the premise of faith in his omnipresence, which in Catholic apologetics states that he knows every hair on your head. Ironically, a good test of whether prayer actually works in this way or not would be for the believer to try not praying at all, previous to an important event, and then see if events turn out exactly as they'd hoped they would, despite that they have negated the need for supernatural assistance. Of course, any beneficial outcome would still be interpreted as his guiding influence, such is the nature of hermetically sealed faith in faith. But it might nevertheless prove to be a useful way to demonstrate to someone who is caught within this kind of habitual thinking just how many of their assumptions are held without good reason. Sadly, it's also true to say that the objectivity which would be necessary for the believer to truly view their actions in this light is exactly the kind of intellectual honesty which does away with the emotional need for religious faith in the first place. For example, in the very same way it would be difficult to establish where the separation between influence and inspiration is in the mind of an artist, or what the difference between drive and passion is in an athlete. In those with religious faith, it is the labels given to certain emotions, facets of the personality where the line of demarcation is ego and protective self-interest, which it is almost completely impossible for the believer to differentiate between, or at least be honest with themselves and other people about when they are challenged based upon the evidence and a rational explanation for what prayer actually is. Prayer, in the mind of the believer, seems to float above the projection of the inner cinema, like a conduit between the projectionist and the actors in the film. It is the illusion of being in control of something for which there is in reality no control whatsoever, despite a wish so strong that this were not the case, that this very disconnectedness between the ego and the outside world becomes an article of faith by which the believer reinforces their biases towards what are in fact a completely unrealistic set of expectations.